Hello, everyone. On bang on midnight, deliberately chose this time because, probably needed to think a lot about what we've just seen and a lot about how to reflect on this evening. Well, it's now technically yesterday, and the performance, the scenes at the end, the fact that we were beaten by a team who are only playing in their first final, but having a manager who has the overwhelming experience on top of which. I sat exactly here. I'm still sat where I am now since the shootout ended. And I've not once felt anywhere near as gutted as I felt for a while. I'll tell you here and now, though, for me, now is not the time to, start blaming people like off the pitch that had a role to play. I blame those who were on it tonight that didn't turn up, and those that did get my praise. Those that didn't, I'm afraid, are to blame for this. Some who I feel coming into this had the mentality, had the ability to treat this game with the respect it deserved, and the overall pressure that comes with it, especially on the day that this match was taking place. None more so than on the 26th of May, where we did the impossible in 1999. To have fallen short tonight on penalties as well, which in any given game is a lottery. To have fallen short is gutting. It's sad, and everyone will pick on David. I don't see a reason why you shouldn't. Everyone will rightfully pick on David De Gea. It is his miss that led to us being beaten tonight. And in all honesty, there is little or not much more I can say that will make it any better. What did feel somewhat rectifiable or somewhat better was hearing what both Ollie and Marcus Rashford had to say. I get the pundits were feeling as they felt there and then, and I tend to agree with what they say about actions speaking louder than words. I mean, now more than ever, we should be acting more than just talking. But what they've said is more or less along the right lines of what we as fans want to hear. Those who do believe in what the project is. For those that don't, this basically for them is a win. And they're going to take this to the hill because we really, played for them tonight. We've played the perfect game. And genuinely, I felt when we were leading up to tonight that it had a tinge of uncertainty about it because for a lot of these players, it is their first final, or for others, it's their with United, and it's the first final for some in 4 years in Europe, 3 years if you're talking domestically. And we've failed to perform when it mattered. We failed to perform when it really mattered. So, where do we begin? First of all, the team selection. Ollie's picked the team he thought would do the job, going as attacking as he could possibly, as he possibly could, because there wasn't many options in the team that were capable of pressing forward or harassing the VRL defense in the areas that many of us, I'm sure, would have liked for them to be harassed in. But there also just so happened to be the inconvenience of putting Pogba in the deeper position. Well, I felt you break up what the team knows at times works, and some things may not work how you expect them to. He took out Fred, citing an injury apparently after Fulham. It did look like he wasn't too bad against Fulham, but he decided to risk it without wanting to put Rashford out on the right. He decided in the end that Pogba had to come off. And in a sense, it did take away a penalty taker, but it also meant we couldn't dictate the game late on in extra time even. So it's something that we can regret. Another thing is, after equalising, we had an attack straight afterwards that we could have immediately gone from being a goal behind to being 2-1 up instantly. In that little moment when I think it's Fernandes just drills a shot way too hard in towards Cavani, and Cavani is sort of, I'm sure he's expecting the ball, but not at such velocity. He's gone straight through him and out of play. I thought there and then, with the goalkeeper beaten, and I think if Cavani gets anything on that, it's going towards goal. We had our bit of luck. We had our best players on the pitch, and no matter what, none of that, not even the smallest ounce was enough for us. And frankly, ask the question, what from here can they do, the players on the pitch? What more can they do? We may have lost our captain tonight, our senior captain tonight. We had Bruno on the pitch, who has been incredible this season, has pretty much been the man who's gotten out of many rabbit holes for us when we've been in trouble. Tonight, he was shut out the game. Marcus Rashford probably had one of the worst matches in a United shirt. Then again, most occasions this season, when he's been good, and he's always been absolutely incredible. And then there are the occasions where he hasn't been, or he hasn't played anywhere near as good at all. Our attack felt very lethargic in the latter stages of the match, especially towards the end of the normal time. It didn't look like Oli was willing to make changes. I think he thought that having stretched these guys as far as he could, they could last the distance. In the end, most of them were forced off because they simply couldn't. And you ask yourself now, half the team was changed by Emery from the hour mark towards the end, whereas Oli doesn't make a change at all, thinking that he can still get the best out of the players who are on the pitch. It's a thing, again, he has to learn. He's probably being a bit too selfish, a bit too reliant on those who are on the field instead of those off it, because it doesn't allow for an impact sub to come on. I mean, we had options on the bench, even though our strength in depth isn't the best. It really isn't. We have strength in depth. So when we could have called on Massa to slow the game down, we could have called on Van der Beek to become an extra midfield option in the attack. We had Dan James. We brought him on, I feel, more or less at the right time, but still he's an option to utilize on the counter-attack, because at points they would have committed bodies forward and we had the chance to bomb down either wing. There are many examples I've seen James on the counter-attack. He's not been great, but he's an out ball, and United simply couldn't get the ball out to him, to Rashford, to Cavani, or to anyone when the ball's in the middle, because they're simply suffocated by yellow shirts all the time. Other players I'd have thought would have made a difference. Ahmad has played well on Sunday. You could have, if Greenwood was to be sacrificed, you could have asked for Amad Diallo to come in and have a role, maybe 10 or so minutes in the extra time period. But I'm sure Oli would have thought of that if we were 3-0 up and not drawing 1-1. In the end, it's all of these little things that the manager has got a bit of the blame for. Is ultimately his doing, but that doesn't change my stance on how my feelings are towards his position. It doesn't change whether he after tonight should still be the manager, regardless of the availability now, apparently, of 2 or 3 good names in the managerial business. I'm not falling into that trap. Not me and not anyone else. People seem to believe that because suddenly Zidane has become available, because Conte has become available, that United are suddenly gonna, tell Solskjaer, yeah, you've had enough time because you couldn't win a final. That, yeah, sure, that's it for you, lad. We should, jettison you and move on to the next guy. What you as fans are telling us now, those who care and those who are still hurting from a night like tonight, that the best thing forward for Manchester United is to do what we've done now for the last 7 to 8 years, and that's replace the manager over and over again. It's funny. It honestly is. It's really funny. The fact that you even consider it to be a thing you manifest or believe in, it's just ridiculous. It is ridiculous. There's no point even talking about it. He's been picked for a reason because he understands what it's like to win. Sure, Zidane and Conte know how to win. They've won leagues. They've won the Champions League. Zidane's won the Champions League. Conte's made it to a European final as well, but he lost last season to Sevilla with Inter Milan. This season, he won Serie A with a team that was made up of majority of Premier League rejects and one very good Belgian striker. The fact they can't afford to probably keep him due to financial reasons is why and strengthening the team is why he probably can't be there anymore. And it's why he's moved on. Real Madrid with Zidane, it's a whole different situation. He didn't win the league. They have not won a trophy. He came back to try and help them win a trophy. And they couldn't do it against Chelsea, against Atletico, or in the Cup either. And you're telling me Zidane would change Manchester United for the better just because of the stellar name that he is and the tactical brain that he has on. There's always a root to every problem, and the root of this problem is very simple. No matter who the manager is, the people who run this club are always the ones you point the fingers at. And all these weeks now, we've protested against them. We've given up time and energy and stress to the point where we've even stopped a football match. And still, people still want to go back to the original agenda. It's all about the manager. It's all about Oli. It's all about his failures, not the owners. You realize now that while the owners are quaking in their boots and are probably expecting about 1 million fines coming their way for what they tried to do way back when, it feels like a long time ago, it should not be underestimated that they're not, no matter who the manager is, the same principle applies. They're not going to have billions and billions of pounds to spend on this club at their leisure to bring in all of the top talent that they wish to play for their club. It's simple. It's a simple fact of you either ride or die, or as Marcus Rashford said, you make sacrifices to win with this club, and he's perfect for this particular kind of another thing that I'm talking about. He has made so many sacrifices in his life to be able to be as privileged as he is to play for Manchester United. There's a few in that club who've come up through the academy, who've worked hard and tirelessly to be able to wear that shirt. And I'm sure they understand the toil, the sweat, the tears, the locals that are there to bring even their name into the folklore of the club. Those who have come in, who've been there for more than 2 years now, your Pogbas, your Lindelofs, for example, those who played on the pitch tonight, more or less, they're the ones who I feel like they understand now what it takes. But when it comes to the big moment in a United shirt, they suddenly struggle, and they are partially to blame for this failure tonight. Those who don't understand what it takes, or those who don't perform when it matters, they are partially to blame tonight. it cannot all be Ollie's fault. Just because, right, he decided to cater to some people's, apparently, some people's way of thinking, which is, we can't have no Rashford and no Greenwood in the team because there's no attacking threat if we leave Rashford on the right-hand side. We should just stick him up where he plays strongest and try and find a way of putting Pogba in the team. And the only way you could do that is by removing one of McFred. And in the end, he moved one half of McFred to cater for the fans who give a crap on where he should play them. The team were poor. Ollie's got blame, and I'm not in any way giving him, praise for the fact he picked Pogba over Fred tonight. He could easily have left him out, and I'm sure Pogba, who said pre-match, and I'm quite sure he said this, that my position doesn't necessarily, in terms of where I play, is not a concern to me. As long as I win stuff and do well with this club, I will continue to drive for more and more. And he has the mentality of a leader in that team. But tonight he struggled like everybody else did. The little things, like the little differences in games, are those who have the mentality to just say to themselves, I'm going to take the game by the scruff of the neck. I'm going to make sure the opposition are, dancing to my beat instead of us being forced to watch them build that impenetrable wall. If we're to be successful, these are the scenarios we've got to break down. The low blocks against bottom of the league teams, or the matches like these tonight where they've come to just defend. If they score, they're going to sit on that. And no matter how long the game goes on for, we may get a lucky break and equalise. But if we don't keep going and continuing to hassle and harry them, force them into errors or suppress them inside their own half enough, we're not going to be, or even have just a general domination of the game. There's no point even, manifesting the thought of winning a trophy. It's the mentality monster thing strikes again with this team. And whether it's because they've been rattled by Jurgen Klopp this season because of the sheer amount of penalties that have been given, whether it's the incapability of winning semi-finals, whether it's the incapability of playing without the same 11, but not playing the same 11, expecting the same results. You would expect the depth of the team to perform when asked upon, regardless of the level that they play at. They wear the United shirt. Yes, it weighs heavy on some. It still means you have to give it a right old go. For too long now, we've watched stuff like this, and it does, pull on the heartstrings of a few. And I'm sure tonight, for those, I'm with you. I'm so annoyed that we're not we're not developed enough apparently to be able to win with Ollie. From day dot, and I've said it in many various outlets, whether it's this one or All For United or even Stretford Paddock nowadays, I've always said from day dot, Ollie's got the minerals because he knows how to play for this club. He knows what it takes to win with this club. He has this ability to grind out results in the most desperate of times. And somehow now we've consistently performed under him to be able to finish in the top four consecutively now, which is something neither Mourinho fanboys can, take away from Ollie, nor can people who believe Van Gaal or could do it way back before that. Moyes, we know about Moyes. It's a simple fact. He was just given the job too soon, and it got too big for him too quickly. He knew the task that was at hand, and he crumbled very fast. It just didn't make any sense. It's also, as I've said once, I'm saying again, it's also the decisions above the manager which are a problem. And it is going to be a problem until there is clear and coherent action as to where this goes next. But until then, we just have to take into account that this tonight, yes, was a failure. And it's a deja vu of last season with this, because last season we had the same thing happen in the game against Sevilla. Ollie played his strongest 11 in that semi-final. He pushed them and pushed them and pushed them. and they all collectively made mistakes. I think the only anomaly in that game was Brandon Williams because Luke Shaw wasn't available. So other than that, if you look at the two sides tonight and last season, they are near identical to one another. So really, he's gone back to what he thought could do the job against Sevilla. He knows it didn't work, but tried it again tonight thinking that it would become possible to develop a different result to the one that has already happened in the past. It's sickening, really. It's sickening. I am awaiting, hopefully, Robbie, who's watching the game back because of his refereeing duties, to return. But this show can go for as long as it needs to. I've got plenty to say. I've got plenty to get off my mind because it is the last game of the season. Though we can't pretend that there's another match after this for us to be able to, say we have to build on this. We have to learn from this or whatever. Because that was our season. That was practically the last match of our whole season now. We've got to go into the summer with the Euros and all this going on to watch and to follow, and then following all these Twitter pages, the feed on Instagram about transfers and who's going to be the ones that get to join from Man United. It's just not right, really. It's just not right. We are currently in, I feel, the best position we've been for a very long time. We finished second in 2018, but what did we do? We signed a £50 million midfielder, an unproven fullback from Portugal, and a 38-year-old goalkeeper in that summer under Jose Mourinho, when we needed, we desperately needed even more strengthening. We lost the FA Cup final with Mourinho on that day when Phil Jones tumbled Hazard over in the box. Everyone seems to have forgotten that one very quickly because Mourinho fans will tell you, on that day Chelsea were too good. Conte was absolutely fantastic. We deserved to lose that game because we didn't turn up. So your excuse then was because Conte's team were good and defended well. We didn't take our chances and in the end lost the final. I was there at Wembley that day. I remember watching that game with my own eyes. And I remember seeing all of those red shirts just not having a bloody clue as to how they approach the Chelsea defence. How do they break them down? In the end, they just crumbled. They let the game peter out, and in the end, Chelsea won the cup. They deserved it on sheer defensive power and strength on its own. We were poor that day, and the excuse was that the players didn't do enough then. So now, because the players didn't do enough in a similar final to this one, in a similar final like this one to the one we had in 2018, it's about the manager. I said then in 2018 to a friend of mine, if Jose Mourinho does not win a trophy the next season, he has to leave the club because we're already under pressure with the name that comes on our shirts, the ones that we all proudly wear, thanks to investing our money in the next hottest thing that comes out of the mega store. But we do it because we support the team as much as we can. And for the record, I brought this off of eBay, not off of the club shop. Thank you very much. eBay is the better place in this whole world to buy your Man United shirts. But in 2018, people said that Mourinho's not to blame; it's the players' fault. So who's to blame tonight then? If the players are let down, who's to blame? You're blaming the manager again. When this time, it's a more different scenario to one it was the one that we had 3 years ago. 3 years ago, we had a team that was more or less threadbare. We depended on Romelu Lukaku and at the time a still young Marcus Rashford, somewhat with the quality in the final third to bail us out. The odd occasion, we were way too defensive, and those chances of park the bus Man United were just, for me, they were the most harrowing thing about supporting the club at that time. That we constantly were on the back foot all the time and depending on the counter-attack just to keep us in games and keep us within, an eye or even the smallest hope of still being in a match. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So you use this tonight as an excuse for the manager to be sacked. I said then, if Mourinho didn't win a trophy in the third season, he's got to go. What happened? United were 8th when Mourinho was manager in that first half of the season. The high point was beating Juventus, and we only won that game by an own goal. We scored Max scores a great free kick. We win with an own goal. We played well for 5 minutes of that game. For the rest of that match, we were inconsistent. We were non-existent. That was the high point of Mourinho's time at the club in that first half of the season. We just fell fast. Oli came in, put us on the right track for a little while. We had Paris, which was basically the peak of it all, and then suddenly, after which we thought it couldn't get any higher. We thought we couldn't continue this run to the end of the season because this is just a players down in tools for Mourinho, simply because he has it out for them because they don't want to do what he wants them to do. And in the end, it's just it showed when we played Liverpool on that day. Shaqiri getting 2 goals off the bench, if I'm not mistaken. That was the most humiliating element of that particular day. We went there and were more or less already under pressure, and his job was practically on the line. To find that he'd go on and lose the dressing room after that particular game, it spoke volumes. And ever since then, I thought the next man who comes into this job has to be the right one and has to survive this period. Because if we don't survive this period, I think we're going to fall even further behind the teams that are trying to, get into the top 4 or challenge, as we should be challenging for the titles or going far in the Premier competition in Europe. And, yeah. In 2019, we had that period when Oli came in. He blew us away. We lost it against Arsenal, and it just spiraled quickly out of control from there. He gets the summer. He builds the defense a little bit. We play better. We struggle in the early part of the season. We win enough games just to keep in touch, but we're still far away from the top 4. Bruno Fernandes comes in. He's basically our savior for the first 2 months. The pandemic hits. So then now what? We do get Marcus Rashford back. We do get some of the players we lost for a little while back, but even still, semi-final defeat. Especially with how the last 14, 15 months have gone, in particular, these players have been put through the mill, and I'm surprised that they've managed to survive even this season without feeling like an ounce of fatigue or sufficient burnout. And some of them now are going to go off and play in the Euros and play another 7. For some of them, it's going to be another 7 more games. For some, it could be much less than that. Yeah, but for this season, my realistic hope, as I said then, was if we get far in the Champions League, great. If we get in the top 4 in the Premier League, great. And what did we do? We got into the top 4. We made it a trickier season than it should have been for ourselves because we were top for a little while. And also, not just that, our start to the season, what was it? First 6 games at home, we lost 3 of them. To Palace, Tottenham, and what was it? Arsenal, I think it was. Yeah, Arsenal. We lost 3 of our first 6 at home. It was horrible, that part of the season. And it was blighted further with a calamitous display in Istanbul, which led to our downfall in the Champions League. We needed to win that game and more or less secure our place at Old Trafford, and we wouldn't have to worry about the last 2. In the end, PSG, who were desperate, got out of the group, winning after beating us at Old Trafford, pretty much had the upper hand, and we had a lackluster display in Leipzig. We fall down to the Europa League. And from here on out, this is the tournament we have to win. We've got to go in there and win the competition from the get-go. We play a blinder against Sociedad. Before playing a dead rubber at Old Trafford, we squeezed past Milan, and it was the hardest game I think we've played in Europe this season outside of Leipzig. It was the hardest because they were high in Italy. We managed to get around Granada, different sort of team, but still Spanish, still beat them. And then in the semi-final, we blitzed Roma. We crunched through the 2 legs and scored plenty of goals in those games. So coming into this final, then our form was poor. We didn't have I don't think we had the strength in depth anyway, thanks to the fact with the Liverpool game being postponed and the compression of the schedule due to the obvious incidents that happened in a few Sundays ago now. It ultimately has led to our demise, and I can't understand it. Oli now just needs the depth. He now needs something to lean on in terms of this summer, because they need to support him. But outside of that, I don't know. It's not ideal sitting here right now thinking about this, because we've been beaten by a team that finished 7th in La Liga. Yet we drew the game overall, and that tells you how hard it's been on the players. Yes, but still, you turn up to games like these. If you don't turn up, you get beat. No matter how it is, you end up having to depend on your goalkeeper, and he lets in 10 penalties when he hasn't saved a penalty in 5 years at Manchester United. 5 years. It's just terrible. It's terrible. Questions are obviously being asked by everyone. And, like I said at the start, it's a victory for those who oppose the manager tonight. It's a victory for those who wanted United to come up short on penalties. And as I felt from the minute we've reached the shootout, just something that was, within me told me that we're just not good for spot kicks when it comes to the actual shootout itself. Like, we can score penalties, when in the 90 and all that freely, great, but outside of that, we were poor, and we were poor in some cases. We had the bright sparks, like we typically tend to do in these sorts of games. We have that moment or a period in a match where we tend to create a lot, but we don't take the chances, and then frankly, it leads to this poor performance in the end. And as I said, I can only blame those who were on the pitch tonight. And I will blame the manager, but to an extent. I will only blame him for this evening's performance, because he might have been a little bit selfish with not making changes sooner, getting fresh legs on, seeing that the opposition were clearly attempting to hold out the game. It was about keeping the team fresh and all blah, 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 blah. And yeah, it's like I say, it's one of those for the Ollie out team tonight. And yeah, I don't know if they're having a secret party or even or whatever, just to celebrate this. Ultimately, we've done what we could, or we've reached the end. No, we did doing what we could, but not earning or achieving what we set out from the get-go, which was to win something. And silverware is what this club has been thriving on now for near a century. And for us to come up short tonight, it really begs the question as to whether this team is capable of performing in finals and being able to win the games that they need to be able to win the games when they matter, to against these big teams or against the underdogs, like seeing them off the way that Sociedad was seen off, for example, or the anomalies like the Leeds and the Southamptons. There are high points this season, and then there are low points, and this is the lowest. I dare say this is worse than Leipzig, because Leipzig on its own had stakes on it, and all United really needed was just 1 point from 2 games against PSG and Leipzig, and they couldn't do it after beating them in the first 2, which was, they were highs, yes, but even then, you lean on one game, and if you don't turn up, you don't turn up. And it, as I've said, I want to say again, players have to be ready for nights like these, because they're going to be put into, so many different situations. If you don't get the experience, if you learn from this experience now, what's say next time we get to a final again, we don't have this problem. Dear, oh dear. And really, you can't. It's just a poor performance. If you need an excuse for how bad tonight was, then look no further than the fact that when it got down to the goalkeepers, it was David that missed it, not Geronimo Rulli. I've never seen David take a penalty. And I watched the training session yesterday. I think Ollie had them doing the regular stuff, finishing drills, the mini match on one side of the pitch, and they're just a regular, just going through the motions as they normally do in any session. The one thing I don't think Ollie set them up for was penalties, because this is different to a normal final, or to a Premier League game. Sorry, it's different to a Premier League game. Oh dear, I can't understand it. Frankly, I can't understand it. It's beggars belief for me. It's beggars belief for anyone who supports the club. But I'm surprised that he didn't put them through a penalty shootout. So I see you, Paul. We'll bounce back. Yes, we're upset, but we will come back. And mate, it's nice to see that you've shared that with us, and I agree with you. I do agree that we have the capability of coming back from scenarios like these in the future. One thing's for sure, we could certainly improve in areas, but what we can reflect on for tonight is that we did well in parts, but we didn't play overall well enough, and it's more or less our season wrapped up in 120 and something minutes. So just looking at the ratings for our team tonight as well, 6.6 for De Gea, 6.7 for Wan-Bissaka, 7s for Lindelof and Bailly, who performed well but conceded that cheap goal. Shaw was solid, so was Pogba. Cavani got an 8, 7.8 for Pogba. Greenwood and Fernandes had 6s, which was more or less not so much average, but it was clear to see that we're going down one side tonight. That was where Rashford was. He got 7. But Tomine, though, by far, man of the match, and no way was there anyone on that pitch that wasn't deserving of that award more than him. He was absolutely immense tonight. He's the only player, along with Cavani and Luke Shaw, who I think can take something from tonight and will probably be seen as those who make the positive looks on this team in this game particularly. But outside of that, the rest of it was just non-existent. It wasn't anywhere near as good. Now we ask about the future, and the short-term future, Ollie has to get the backing, and it has to be full. It cannot be partial like it has been the last 2 seasons. teams have strengthened like crazy, while we've sat here and looked at, like Chelsea signing 4 attacking players, like Manchester City bringing in Portuguese international right back and centre backs because of the desperation to have not only the near perfect 11, but the depth underneath it. So they have to have 2 players in every position. If they don't, it's basically like trying to fill square pegs with round holes. It doesn't make any sense. You don't need that. This is so difficult. I just don't know how else to describe it. In terms of the future, it has to get properly backed now. We have to see action. The owners have gotten away with these kind of things for far too long, and will one way or another pay the price for it one day. And when they do end up leaving, because they are not going to be here forever, we only have one life. They've got better things to do, I'm sure, with their money than just flaunt it at Manchester United for the rest of their bloody years on this earth. But there are better things they can do, and one of the better things they can do is either get the hell out now, because we need proper people in this club, like proper football people in this club, as well as a competent and single objective minded person who will come in and just only focus on Manchester United and nothing else, because it's clear to see there's no clear indication of what happens here. Paul asks here, and I was going along those lines, wonder how the 4th of June fan forum will go with Joel Glazer, Dan. Like deep down inside me right now, I'm one of those people that hopes he gets absolutely lynched in that fan forum meeting. I hope whoever's there that on that day in a week's next week, I hope they lynch him, because this result, and combine that with numerous others, is the best use of evidence to show that we are nowhere near exactly where we need to be. And Ollie summed it up perfectly. This has not been a successful season just because we finished second. Marcus Rashford talks about sacrifices and the fact that we are close. And he's right. People will go against him on social media, but what are they to know? I don't like this sort of narrative that just because we've finished second this season, it should be seen as a success. We should really be aiming to, at least every single season, consistently challenge for the title, or keep putting the pressure on as much as possible to the extent where it goes to the very end. And when we do get to the very end, like this season, if we don't make it, we always look at it and think, where did we make a mess? Where did we get it wrong? How do we improve on nights like these and nights like the ones against Sheffield United, Everton, the draws to Arsenal, and defeat to Leicester in the FA Cup? Those are prime examples of moments that have to be learned from and enacted quickly by these players. Then on the other side, it's, as Paul asked me, when it comes to the work off the pitch, there has to be a cohesive effort behind strengthening this team to the point where it is competitive enough to challenge for the title and not cower behind in second place by 15 or 13 or 14 points behind the league winners, and then go to a final and have to put on not an average performance, but a performance that has moments of promise, but in the end is poor. We would rather have consistency across the board and not have to sit here and wonder, why has this happened? And it's always going to be the same answer. He's not backed in the transfer window properly, and they're not giving him what he really needs. They're too distracted, clearly, by other things. And the one time they take notice is when it goes wrong. And it's going wrong now. It is actually going... It couldn't be, if we needed an example to prove it, it couldn't be going more wrong right now. If you needed an excuse to either get gone, now's that time. If you need an excuse to start making it look like you're having any effort in developing this club, because you're not here forever. And by golly, I'm sure as many of us as there are on this earth, we wouldn't want you to be here forever in terms of owning the club. The last thing we need is for you to hide in Florida or in California behind your sofa, pretend that you care that we've lost, and then suddenly when you say you're going to do something and then make it look like it's somewhat somewhat an improvement, you start putting up barriers again between us and you, when really all we really have wanted is the success to keep coming and coming and coming. Yes, we're not entitled to Champions League victories or the Premier League or the FA Cup. We're not entitled to them because of the name that we brandish so proudly around our shirts or on our sleeves, or even in our bloody wallets, for example. We care about them because of the community aspect of it and the love that it brings or the escapism it brings for football fans. And it's not just Manchester United, it's about every single club in this country, maybe even beyond. For Villarreal tonight, I've struggled tonight to be able to praise them, because for them, this was their first ever final. They've never been here. They've had 4 failures at this stage, at the semi-final stage, before coming here. So they've been through it all, but they're a much more humble club. They haven't got as much money. They did come into this as the underdogs, and we treated this game like it was the sort of match we would simply bide our time and then eventually roll over them. When we didn't, what we did do, we underestimated our opposition, which is something you never, ever do in a football match. Underestimating a team that look like they have less quality or skill than you do can sometimes surprise you. It's why things like the upsets in the FA Cup happen, because big sides in the EFL underestimate the non-league teams. And the non-league teams go out of their way knowing there's a financial incentive as well as a chance to be having national exposure for your efforts against these bigger teams. In the end, we treated this like we were playing against a non-league side in stages, and we got punished for it. And then in the end, when we realised we're not playing against a ninth division team, we started playing football a little bit. We got lucky with the equaliser, yes, but in the end, it somewhat proves that there's so much wrong with the club at the moment. It's rotten. It's rotten very, very, very deep. Now, I'm not going to lose sleep over the fact that, we lost tonight on penalties. The game ended 1-1 after 120 minutes, meaning we had to try and win a trophy from 12 yards. We don't do that very often. When we have, we have had people like Van der Sar, Giggs, Ronaldo and co to help us there and then. While Ronaldo missed in the Moscow final, in the end, a little bit of luck and somehow we get away with it. And we managed to win the final. This time around, I had little confidence in going to penalties, because we are not good when it comes to shootouts. We last won a shootout against, I think it was Colchester in the Carabao Cup. That was the last competitive shootout we won. And before that, we lost to Derby. So that tells you how bad it gets when it comes to Man United and penalty shootouts. So in terms of this season, overall, I said it at the start that we have to achieve something this year, because if Ollie can't achieve something, they're going to be out for him. And when we lost 6-1 against Tottenham, I thought there and then it's now or never in terms of backing this manager, because he's being absolutely torn apart by large quantities of the fan base. And we have to remember as well that he's not entirely responsible for the goings on at this club. I say it once, I say it again. The people at the top are fully to blame, and they will always be blamed until the day they're out of this club. So the simple fact of the matter is, if you don't back this man when he needs it most, especially now when we've put enough pressure on, we've given ourselves a good advantage over many of our rivals in the top 4 and are now pretty much as close to City as now as we've been for a long time. We were much further behind in 2018. We've not been this close for a long time. If we don't capitalize on this, I don't know what else. I don't know what to say. The fans may as well just go there and drag them out here for all I care. It's the next best thing. Just drag their carcasses out of there, however they are, because clearly they don't give a crap. And if they don't give a crap, they don't deserve to be the owners of our club. Because for a long time now, we've sat and watched it just watched Old Trafford decay, players be brought in who just happen to be mercenaries for United to fail to turn up to major finals or even perform in games that they should really be winning. It's been too long now. It's been far too long, and too much has been made of tonight for some people. I hope right now these players go back to the hotel and wake up tomorrow still reflecting on what went wrong, because a number of these players now are about to go off and play for their national teams in the European Championships. There are 5 players from Manchester United in the England team, right? 5. It stuns me, right? 5 players that are picked for Manchester United for the England setup in this European Championships. The majority of the others, like your Cavani's, like your Lindelofs, Fernandes, McTominay, Pogba, plenty, Fred even, Tejas, all of these players, if he's fit, Harry Maguire, Van der Beek, all of these guys are gone. And it's just are going off to play for the European or their South American teams now. The pressure could not be more on them now. Paul comes back again with this. If Oli isn't back in the summer, it's a repeat of the 2018 season where Jose finished second and a cup final defeat as well. In my opinion, he'll be gone by Christmas, which is upsetting. I may have touched on that a little bit, but again, I can't disagree. It is going along those lines as in terms of they wielding the axe as soon as they see fit, because he's not able to deliver trophies. You don't back him as he wants, as he would like to be backed. And a lot of us fans who do want the manager to succeed for the club, and it's for the detriment of the club that he succeeds, you just reserve your cash and decide in the end that the best course of action is to do nothing. It's to do absolutely nothing and let him just suffer in the midst of a pandemic with little to no quality other than 11 or 12 top players that he can sort of call upon. Outside of that, we have young stars who are only just breaking into the team. So they're not going to suddenly do a Rashford or a Martial and break in at the first opportunity. And I don't want to hear that we missed Martial tonight, because he's been in stages this season. Martial has been great, and then he's been absolutely awful. So this summer, I hope he uses this recovery time to reflect on himself and improve where he's gone wrong as well. But also, the strain of performing like this on and on and on throughout this season, is with all these challenges, with all these restrictions, with all these COVID bubbles you have to stick to, and not have any interaction with the outside world per se. The only people you ever talk to are those you see at the club. In the end, it's not enough. It's not enough, and there has to be drastic improvements at this club, and they have to happen as soon as that window opens. On the pitch, you bring in the players Oli wants. If you give him what he wants and properly back him, okay, because this club can sign 5 players, and it could easily do it, but there just isn't enough investment from those in America. So we're really just living off of the amount we make from a season in general, which is not going to be a lot because of the failure of tonight, and also the fact that, yes, we finished second, but also the overall revenue is not going to look good due to the fact we haven't had fans in this season. So we're threadbare, and there are quality players this summer who will be available. It's just a case of now bringing them in and trying to figure out if they are the right players, if they have the minerals, if they have the mentality to perform to the standard required, because it just isn't good at all. So it's just not good. It's just not good at all. Alexi has tweeted, but I was going to bring that up, but I found this is disgusting. Marcus Rashford, at least 70 racial slurs on my social accounts counted so far. For those working to make me feel any worse than I already do, good luck trying. And it's just fucking disgraceful. And I don't care if I swear right now. The people have to go this low to try and rattle someone who's already been hurt by such a horrible moment in his career. You're using this moment to try and bring down his self-esteem. Like, who are you? Who are you? You're not human. You're not people whatsoever. You're just the you're kind of people that deserve to be where that woman was who shouted at Ryan Gondo earlier this week. The disgusting things he shouted at him. And you know what? Good for him. He did what he had to do, because at the end of the day, no person should ever be subjected to that kind of nonsense. These people are not humans, or they're not fans. If they are fans of this club, they don't show it in a way that I think they should. This is just disgraceful. It's disgusting. It's disgusting, honestly. It's really, really, really bad. It is really bad. Ah, boy. Yeah, I'm just waiting for Monsieur Alexi to return so that I can get him on, because I need him right now. I do need him. I don't know if he's watching, but as soon as he gets back, I'm happy to just sit here as long as I need to and reflect on tonight. But yeah, it's unacceptable, the abuse that Rashford just received. He does not deserve that. And especially after what we've just, not just him, but we as fans have just gone through. It's ridiculous, honestly. It's just ridiculous. They're not deserving of this at all. They're not deserving of this whatsoever. It's just disgusting. It's just foul. An hour, 2 minutes. If you are in the comments, just tell me your thoughts on the game and how you feel right now. So I'll go on for as long as I need to. This is not going to be a typical hour-long video. I'm going to wait for, at least one or two of our contributors that are still up right now to come on. But yeah, I'd rather be able to speak to somebody about it and try and get their thoughts too. Let's do this. In the chat now is the link to the stream. I've spoken for an hour, and I feel like I've said most of what I've had to say. If you're prepared to come on for a few minutes or longer than that, I don't mind, until obviously we do get someone in. Paul McKeon, David De Gea getting mad abuse and Rush being racially attacked is disgusting by our own fans. It's disgraceful. It's just disgraceful and totally unacceptable. I cannot believe that we've just lost the final. The one thing you could do is go and show sympathy, go and show a little bit of heart, and commit and commiserations, Marcus. You did as well as you could, and etc. etc. It's the sort of message I would leave on any player's social media if I was there now. But I've decided not to. I decide not to. It's just ridiculous what these non-human beings seem to do. It's just ridiculous. I can't understand it, to be honest. I can't understand it. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Yes, for you Norwegian fans, obviously, massive respect to Norway, because obviously Ollie comes from there, and he's absolutely fantastic for the work he's done recently. But if someone called Cerise says this, absolutely gutted about the result. First final in 4 years, we didn't turn up. 2 shots on target, 120 minutes. So yeah, our fans, loosely meaning that, are blaming this on the goalkeeper missing a penalty. It's embarrassing. And congrats to Unai and Villarreal. Yes, the simple fact of the matter is that we lost on penalties, and it's just not good. It's just not good. Let me be positive now, because I've been negative a lot. Tonight, yes, we've lost. We lost. We were beaten by a team who came in there with the support of a town of 50,000, who were willing to do as much as they possibly can to be able to win this competition for their town. Because I'm sure, like many countries or many cities right now who are going through such a difficult time in the last 12 months, they'd love to reward them with something like the Europa League or the FA Cup or any domestic trophy or whatever they achieve, to pay tribute to the people who sacrificed so much for them in the last year and a bit. And for Villarreal, this for them is fantastic. And I understand why for some United fans it's like offensive to lose to a team who've never made it to a European final before. But it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And they've waited for a long time for this as well. So they've earned their stripes, and they've earned the right to be a team in the Champions League next season. They took the spot we had in pot 1 because of our coefficient, but it means now we've moved down, and it's going to once more be a hard group for us next season. So that's just terrible. It's just terrible. I can't believe it that it gets down to this, really. It gets down to this. But yes, I said I was going to be positive, and I'm going to be positive. So this season, we finished second. It's nothing to shout about. It's nothing to be, it's nothing to be overly, pleased with. But was it Carabao Cup semi-final? We defeated Paris and Leipzig. In the first 2 Champions League games, we had victories over City, We have victory over City and later on in the season. Got far. Obviously, got to the final this evening, losing obviously. And while it's ridiculous to see us lose in such a way, it's still a final, and the final is wonderful to be at. And for those who sacrificed everything to go there, and we're not just talking about just COVID-related matters, talking the general scope of it. Bravo to you, but they're coming back for like how feeling the way we are right now. Massive victory, massive wins over Leeds and Southampton. We had a great unbeaten run. We went unbeaten away from home this season in the Premier League. So that for me is that's just on its own is a great achievement. If we can build on that as a stepping stone for the next period, that would be ideal. What else would there be? A few big moments this season where we've been good. I think seeing Alanga score his debut on the final day of the league season, very good. The young stars all coming through. Like, in fact, not just Alanga, Shoretire, Hannibal Mejbri, Amad Diallo starting in the Europa League, and he's building up his confidence. I'm hoping that we have a star with us now because he's such a young and confident player. And yes, I hope is the first of many that come through or are seen as for United as the next big things in Europe. So for the next 10 years or so. So, credit where credit's due to him for coming to the club and, playing a part in our in our final few weeks. More of that. Will Fish as well on Sunday came on, and he fantastic for him. So you're keeping up that youth development and bringing in a academy star every time, and we're hoping the next crop of players here become United folklore or just play their part as much as they can if they have to before deciding to move on, and they'll move on. We beating Liverpool in the cup. I think it was a good day. 3-2 victory. Well, I was convinced we were going to lose that one because of the nature of the fixture and also the fact that we never really beat Liverpool, but we did it. And yes, they came to Old Trafford and flipped it over later in the season, but that was them desperate at the time, so I understand it. But we could sit here and be negative, but because it's the last game of the season, there's no chance now to look ahead to the next one, because the next one for us now is in August, and we have pre-season before that. So, we have 4 or 5 pre-season games before even contemplating the opportunity even of starting to think about next season. We just have to learn from tonight. We have to adapt ourselves to accepting that we don't win every time, but it's how we respond from here on out. And it doesn't matter what we do on the pitch. If we don't turn up and play consistently, it doesn't matter. We just have to accept that one day we're not going to be at our best. And that one day we'll lose a few. I mean, football's not about winning every single game. If you do that, there's something about you that makes it, that makes it special and makes it unique compared to others who have fallen by the wayside in years gone by. But if you can pull off an impossible run such as that, like the ones that Barca women or Red Star Belgrade and Rangers have done this season, going unbeaten in their domestic divisions, it tells you something. It proves to you that there are teams that have everything they need or have everything that's there for them to not only build on the current success, but to continue to push and strive for more until they can give no more. And from then onwards, you build a new crop. Whether they succeed as well as the next team or not is open to discussion. But I'm positive now. This is where Manchester United, this is where I hope more or less that this is where we respond. We show that we're not to be seen as like the second best team in Manchester now. We're seen to be the 20-time champions. We're seen to be the best team in England. Like by fact, we are the best team in England. We are still the most loved club in the world. We're still the most followed club in the world, I believe. We have such a strong fan base, and there will be people who are keyboard warriors that, like I said, tonight this will be a victory for them because they'll feel that he lost a final. That's what they asked him to do: reach a final, and then see if you can do it. But if you can't, then c'est la vie. That's basically it. So really, they've only got themselves to blame. Those who are just happy to slander freely at the manager, or etc. It's just rubbish, complete utter rubbish. This is, I feel, Ollie's best chance this summer now to go out, get what he needs, to prove that he's got what it takes as manager of Manchester United. Yes, it's been hard and we've fallen short again. It's nothing new though. Like, we had this in the 80s, damn it. Like, those fans who in the 80s saw United challenging for the domestic honours and reaching semi-finals of FA Cups, winning the FA Cup twice in the 80s, for example. Before that, getting relegated. We've had it worse than this. I think today's generation do not understand the hard times this club went through way back when. After Munich, I could tell you stories about like the way clubs came out for Manchester United after the disaster, how they offered to loan players. Real Madrid even said they'd give some of their talent to Manchester United. That's how bad it was for us at the time, losing some of our great players. And this is all striving to become kings of Europe at that time. We come back from that 10 years later to win the competition at Wembley on a wonderful night for the club. Best Law, Charlton, Stepney, Nobby Styles. The list goes. The talent in that team, Lord, it runs deep. You go on to the 70s, a relegation, our response, winning the second division. We go through the 80s. We're in Liverpool's shadow practically because they're collecting silverware. We were suddenly the backseat crew when it comes to the big clubs in that era. We just had to sit there and watch. Had that night against Barcelona, the Brian Robson game, the FA Cup wins in 83 and 85. We went through that period where we were struggling to even beat Everton, who won the league. Everton. Ferguson's first 2 years at the club didn't have the best period. Still just about managed to survive an FA Cup elimination, winning it in the end against Forest, and then going to the final to beat Palace and win that trophy. We follow it up with the European Cup Winners' Cup, second in the league, and then the dynasty begins. Our 16, 17-year dynasty began there and then. And now we go through what I feel is a similar scenario to what we went through in the 80s. We sporadically win trophies, but we don't get consistency we don't get as consistent as winning as a winning team as we should be. But this is as close to what feels like a winning team as it has ever been. If there's ever been a chance, right? If there's ever been a chance now to solidify our hopes as a club, to succeed in the future, to prove that we're not just a side that rests on its laurels and happily accepts mediocrity, like we've done in the last 2 seasons before Ollie came in. Now is that time. Now we have to strengthen. Now we have to prove that if we are up for the task, we can perform to the standards necessary. And I know we can. So, yeah. 1 hour 19. I wanted to go longer. I can't see. Let's see here yet. I'm hoping he's. I don't know if he's running back to his house. I hope he is. Yeah. So in the summer, 3 players, 4. I hope. If we can get those 2, if we get just a few of those in, I'd be delighted. And next season, we try once more to get over the semi-final hurdle in a competition. Anyone, I just get a trophy next season by any means necessary. Strengthen this team and win a trophy. Keep that Premier League consistency. Let's try and go far in the Champions League next season. I've now decided I no longer care who we draw. It's all about, for me now, getting to a final again and reacting on the mistakes we've made this evening and getting it right for next time. Because next time, I don't know. The next time, I hope, is the last time we hear the words United have come up short again in a major final. It's got to happen. A trophy of any kind. Carabao Cup, League, FA Cup, Champions League, Premier League, if it's a miracle, such a miracle to the extent that we win it on the last day, for example, whatever. However we do it, we have to collect something next season to put in that cabinet. Because I don't want us to turn into Tottenham. I do not want us to turn into a side that have not won a trophy this season as for years and years and years. I want us to be able to thrive on success, but while Ollie is manager, and not to be around the bush a bit. Yes, we lose the final. Everyone does, but this team, I'm sure, as Marcus Rashford said, it's so close. It's dangerously close to a near perfect side. All we need now is just 1, turn up when it matters, and 2, for all of the things I've said tonight, for the backing to be right, to make, because it's a massive bubble number, the second point, for all of the minerals you need to win a trophy to be there in this team, for the consistency to challenge for the title to be there, and for you to be able to succeed when the going gets rough. You've got to have all that. You've got to back him now. You've got to help this team succeed. And yes, tonight is disappointment, but tomorrow we start again. We start learning from the outset. We work on these mistakes. We work on what went wrong tonight and go out and try again. I feel like I'm repeating myself now, but before I go insane, I'm going to call it, because I can't. I think the general feeling is that everyone's so gutted that they can't come on. I've braved it for tonight. You've got literally my instant reaction, which has gone on for 1 hour 22 now. 1 hour 22 minutes sitting here. But there's so much I had to say. And tomorrow I'm going to try again. We're going to try and get our regulars on to try and decipher their feelings about what happened tonight. Well, it's actually today being Thursday. We're going to try and get the feelings of the crew about tonight's game, and we'll do one tomorrow afternoon. I hope to hopefully continue this inquest. This is going to be part 2 of this show, but you've heard my own opinion. I appreciate, obviously, that a lot of people are feeling absolutely gutted tonight, and I do not for one blame them. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible feeling. I said it from I put my neck on the line when we went out the Champions League. We have to win the Europa League. If we don't win it, it's going to be considered an unsuccessful season. And in the end, with us and adding the 2 other defeats in the cup competitions this season, it has now somewhat proven to be an unsuccessful season. So, thanks everybody. If you've stuck with me for tonight, I appreciate it. We're back tomorrow with another one. We'll probably see it early on in the morning when we'll go on our Twitter of what time we'll go live and who with. But in the meantime, we've come up short again, but still Ollie in till the very end, for me at least. It's a win for the Ollie outers tonight, but up the effing Reds, eh? And no to racism. No to racism. Bye-bye, everyone.